started. Are we ready? Let's do this thing. All right, let's pray. Here we go. Lord, thank you again just for time to get together, to take one step closer to going over to the Middle East, to Israel, to see your land. We ask, God, that you would continue to go before us, open up doors, close doors. We pray for a safe, fruitful, sweet time with you and with each other in Israel, and for some in Greece, God. So we just ask that you would bless the planning, bless the trip. In Jesus' name, amen. Okay, guys, everything is finished now. So everything is done. Finally, we can say that. I talked quite a little bit again with some of the details more on these insurances that I want to make certain we understand. So I'm going to go through this again. Now, there are 3 different insurances. The one insurance is required, and that is when we're in Israel, we have to have insurance for non-COVID situations. Sprained ankles, a broken arm, appendicitis attack, things like that. That is included in the tour price. Your insurance here in the States will not cover anything in Israel. So we pay for that, and that's covered. It does not cover anything that has to do with COVID. So we have to have another insurance for any COVID-related expenses that we run into. Okay. Any COVID-related expenses we have when we're in Israel. So we're in Israel and we get tested for whatever, and we have COVID. Those expenses have to be covered before we can get into Israel also. We have to have an insurance policy for that. That's part of that insurance we were talking about, the trip cancellation. That's part of that one. So we have 2 options on that second insurance. We're going to have 2 insurances. One's already paid for with the price of the trip. The other one, remember, is like $70 and $318, whatever it was, whatever those prices are. Those prices are for trip cancellation. So that's if we go to Dallas and you get tested before you get on the plane and you're positive. Yeah, that would just be a pit. That would be a pit of it. And if you're vaccinated, you can still be tested positive. So I'm going to suggest as we get closer, obviously, as we get closer to the trip, to really be careful. Really practice everything you're practicing now, but with steroids. But at any rate, you get there and you're positive. Depending which insurance you purchased, you're going to have to buy one or the other. But that's not included in the price. That's going to be an additional cost that you're going to want to buy, and that's in that blue envelope or that blue handout that Connie mailed to y'all and we passed out in our last meeting. And that's going to be a really important one to have. The lesser one, the $70, will, if that happens to you, you will receive your flight cost back. So if the round-trip flight was $2,000, you get $2,000 back. If you buy the bigger one, it's $300 and some dollars, you get the entire trip back. But the option is up to you, and that's per person. So we have to have one of those 2 to get into Israel, but attached to that is also the trip insurance, or the flight insurance or trip insurance. So those are those things. Now, those of you online, out of state, if you haven't received that mailing, you will receive it shortly. What we're asking that you do is once you fill out your registration, out of state people now, once you fill out your registration form and your insurance form, then we're asking that before you mail it back, that you take your phone and just take a picture of each of those and text that picture back to Connie. Her number, never mind, you both know her number. Send it back to her. Well, if you're watching on here, 505-220-1610. 505-220-1610. Just text that back to her and then mail them back as well. And then make sure the name on your registration form and on your insurance form matches exactly your passport name. So that's got to be exactly the same as your passport. So we want to make certain we've got that as well. Registration, and now if you do not have a passport, it's time to order your passport. Please order that quickly. We need your passport to confirm all the reservations and the flights and all that stuff. So we need your passport, copy of your passport. All right, does that insurance stuff make sense pretty much? We got that. No big thing. Okay, good. Then, before we get into our day-to-day trip, I do want to mention the Greece extension. We'll be leaving on the 28th of June, either to come back home, or if you're going to Greece, to go on into Thessaloniki or Thessalonia. And once we go to Thessalonia, we will see just a few Christian sites. Thessalonia is the second largest city in Greece. Think of it like Chicago almost. It's a big city. And it's sitting right on the Aegean Sea. But there's a few sites to see there, not a lot. Some ruins, a museum that has Christian significance to it. The next morning we'll get up and we'll drive up to Philippi. And we'll go to the, go ahead, Connie, I can't hear you, sweetie. Okay. We'll go up to Philippi, and we will do a day tour in Philippi. It's about a 3-hour ride. We'll come back to Thessalonica again, spend another night in Thessalonica, get up and drive to Athens the next day. On the way to Athens, we're going to stop along the way and see something in the area of Berea. When I looked at that area in Greece where we're going to be stopping, it's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful area with these tall rock pillars and canyons and all this kind of stuff. And the Eastern Orthodox Church built their monasteries up on these jagged cliffs. Remember in the wilderness in Israel, the monastery between Jericho and Jerusalem? It's that type of thing, only it's the Eastern Orthodox monastery. But that's in the area of Berea. So it's going to give you a whole different picture when you see Paul going from Philippi to Thessalonica to Berea, and then we'll go down into Athens. When we get into Athens the next day, we'll spend a half a day touring the Parthenon area, the Acropolis, and Mars Hill. We'll be doing studies on that before we go, so we'll make certain we have a good idea. I'm looking in this room. I think everyone in here, everyone in here took New Testament, sir. You all know that stuff. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to stop there at Mars Hill. And then we'll spend the last half of the day down in Corinth. We'll drive down to Corinth and take a look at the Corinthian ruins, which are really developed. Then we come back, spend another night in Athens, and the next day is a free day in Athens. So you just have a free day to do shopping. If you want to jump on the water, it's just your day. Whatever you want to do, that's up to you. So that'll be the last day in Athens. On the Greece extension, all the breakfasts are included. None of the other meals are. So your evening meals are, we're free on our evenings to do what we want to do for food. So make sure we understand that part. All right, so we have a free day in Athens. Next time we get up, we fly back home. So that's what we have. The June 28th to July 3rd are the Greek extension days. Questions? Can you read those? There they are. I don't think yours is mailed out, Dave and Nadine. I believe, did you mail one to Dave and Nadine? It was just out-of-state people, isn't it? Just out-of-state people. So just stop by in the office and pick it up. All right. Any questions on that Greek extension? Yes, sir. 24. Yes, it's 24 and a little bit less. And Israel came in less than we've been telling people. Israel is 5173. And I'll pull up. Got it? 2472, thank you. 2472 is Greece. All right. So, I got a list from Don of everybody who's paid in. We're all paying in the same amount. So I'm going to go ahead and just confirm that we're right with you. So if there's a mistake on this, you can let us know. The first one's Carly Anderson. She's not here, but her deposit is in. Anthony and Crystal, they're in. Gil, you've got a boatload in. 65.30 is where we're at right now. Sandy, we've got yours together, 75. Dave and Nadine, 3 and 3, correct? Total of 6, is that right, guys? Dave and Nadine?
I have to ask Dave, but he's not in right now.
It's,
I know we paid a portion towards it.
yeah, check with him. He made a couple deposits today. It should be a total of 6.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I'm
You sound great.
time talking, Pastor Kon.
Yeah, you sound great, girl. I'm loving your voice. It's good.
That's why I stayed away today.
And we appreciate that. Thank you. Tom and Lisa, 44. Guy and Becky, 4. Correct? Plessid and Rhonda, 8. That's everybody here, so we're good. Come on now. Well, I don't know. So Lydia is going. Okay, so then the numbers are, as of right now, Israel as of right now should be 27, possibly 28, but 27 confirmed. Israel, and we should be, is she doing Greece, do you know? Is she going to do that? If she does Greece, we should be 23, possibly 24 into Greece. So the price that we had for Greece was based on 20 people. We're over that. The price we had for Israel based on 26. We have 27, so we're good. I'm sorry? Max is 30, is it? We can't have more than 30? Okay. So we're close, and we've got about 3 or 4 people still very interested in coming on, so we're going to be real close on that. So that's where we're at on all that kind of stuff. We understand the insurance. You've got to take out of the insurance. It's just, yes.
Pastor Kon, up to when do we have to get the additional insurances?
You sound so funny, Nadine. Nadine, do you realize this? Okay.
Do you understand what I said?
Yeah, kind of. On the form, the insurance tells you, I believe, how many days prior to. And if I remember, I read through that, and I believe that's what it was it not? That you can take them at different times prior to going, I believe. But it's going to be at least another, you'll probably have at least till February before that's going to be something you have to really look strongly into. But we'll go through the form again. And does anybody remember when we read through it last time? I don't have it up here with me, but 45 days? 45 days before we leave. There it is. Just a second, real quick here. Thank you, Tom. Thanks, babe. We're not going to spend time now, Dave. We'll get back to you on that. It's not within the next week, though. I know that. So you're okay. but we'll find out. Okay, any other questions on that? We're good? Yes. I would say yes. Me either. I call all the time. And are you leaving messages? They will call back eventually. Make sure you identify that you're with our group. And use my name. They won't know that probably. So use my name. So just use my name and with our tour group. It's identified by that usually. Just use the last name Tweeten in Albuquerque, and then they'll recognize that. Okay. All right. Okay, bam, we got that done. We've got that done. We talked about packing and clothing last week. Any questions on that? Everyone's good there? You guys are all returners almost here, so we're good. We're good back there. So let's go on. So now we're looking at the next pay due date. Greece, we've got to have $1,000 by the 1st of the year. We said December 15th. It's January 1st. We moved that back. So we were able to get that back at least 2 weeks anyway. So you've got to have $3,000 in, $2,000 for Israel, $1,000 for Greece by the 1st of the month. Then the next Israel account due is going to be February 1st. And that's an additional $2,000 on February 1st. So that's kind of where we're at as of now as far as our next payments go. And then in the middle of February is where you pay the rest, or no, March. March 1st is where you pay the rest of Greece off. And then whatever that last date was, I think it was April 1st, is where we pay the rest of Israel off. So kind of have it. So starting in January, it's a monthly bill. Okay, that's where we're at. Okay. Now, we're up in the Galilee. We're only going to spend about 25 minutes doing this tour since most of you are very familiar with what I'm talking about. I'm going to go through it slowly for Tom, Lisa, and Gil. The rest, oh, Guy and Becky, never mind. We'll take our time. Okay. So half of you are here. Okay. Slow, Guy and Becky, we're going to go real slow now. Here we go. Here we go. Thank you, guys. Sorry, man. That was rough. Okay. So on day 8 now, we've looked at, no, we'll go up to day 7. On day 7, early in the morning, we get up and we climb up a mountain called Mount Arbel. This is a picturesque view of the Sea of Galilee. When you look at it, it's kind of fun because you can actually almost see the Sea of Galilee the way it looks in the back of your Bible with the maps. We're in the southern part of it, and there it is. And it's just a beautiful view of the Sea of Galilee, high up. What makes it very unique is just to the left of this Mount Arbel is the only valley that leads from the Galilee further down south to the Sea of Galilee, which means for Jesus to come from Nazareth to go to Capernaum, it's the only way for him to get there. So when you're standing there, you look and you go, that's where Jesus and his disciples would have come to the Sea of Galilee. When he went back up to Nazareth, that's where it is. And if you look over that way, you can have a pretty good idea how far that walk would have been. You can see where he'd come through. To come through that valley, it enters out into a town that's still there today called Magdala. And that's where we're going to be staying when we're in the Galilee. We'll be staying in Magdala. They discovered a synagogue there. And of course, it's Mary Magdala, Mary of Magdala, Mary Magdalene. So he would have gone through Magdala, and then you can see how he'd walk along the shoreline over to Capernaum. You'll be able to see Capernaum. You'll see Magdala. You'll see the area of Tagba where the demoniac was relieved of the demons, and all the pigs ran into the Sea of Galilee. You'll be able to get a real good idea of how that all works on there. So you have a good view from that. That's early in the morning we go there. From there we go to a place called Sepphoris. Sepphoris is a very unique find. When I first started going to Israel in the early 90s leading tours, they hadn't found it yet. Knew nothing about it. and it changes everything about how we see Jesus. You're out of here, man? There goes Pastor Gill. He got called in. He's on call. He works at UNM Hospital. He's a goner. There he goes. Okay, you're leaving that phone home to go. You understand that? Okay, good. But at any rate, so Sepphoris, very, very, very unique discovery. And this is why, and we go to Sepphoris for this reason, because of the things they're finding there. But when they came across it, there have been comments made and writings made about this place, but no evidence ever existing. It was kind of a weird deal. And then they discovered it here maybe 30 years ago or so, and now it's becoming more and more excavated. But what makes it significant, it's a large city. So it appears to be the largest city in the Galilee in Jesus' day. They had a little bedroom community just a few miles to the south of it named Nazareth. So where we used to think of Nazareth as this little rural town, small little town like Bethlehem kind of, Nazareth now all of a sudden becomes a bedroom community for this much bigger city. And in Sepphoris, they found the ruins of a big amphitheater. They found very nice homes, think like the Northeast way out there, those fancy homes way out there. They found some of those ruins. They found some of those mosaics, found tons of stuff. And now they're starting to look at it differently as they start to study more about this. Because Joseph, remember, was in Egypt with Mary and Jesus for a couple of years. Then he comes back to the Galilee and he settles in Nazareth. And the question was, why did they go back there? Are they from there? Maybe. Now most people believe Mary was from Sepphoris. Tradition, but that's what's coming up. But they're looking at, is it possible that Joseph, being a carpenter, was actually a stonemason, not a wood carpenter, and that he worked in Sepphoris because that's when the city was being built? And is it possible he worked on some of these things we see? And if that's possible, if that is it, we know Jesus followed his dad's footsteps. So when we go to Sepphoris, it's just fun to dream. You don't know, but it's fun to dream and say, wow, Jesus could have been building some of this stuff around here. This is really cool. Who knows? Don't know. But Sepphoris is a new discovery. It's a fun discovery. It's got really slippery rocks. Want to be careful with the slippery rocks back there in the back. It's slippery. The stones get slippery real quickly because people are walking them all the time. And we usually have people fall. So wear good gripping shoes. Forget what it looks like. Just make sure you got good grips on your shoes. And it's funny because you'll see different ones of us are standing around. This time it'll be Klesson a little bit more. Me and Klesson. Probably not Gil, but probably Pastor Anthony. People have been there before. We just have them kind of stand in certain areas and they would just make sure that you need a hand to get down here, you need a hand to get down there. Well, I was standing there, and there came Brigitte. And Brigitte is one you don't think of. I'm looking at the people that are 80 plus. I don't want them falling. So Brigitte just came walking. Hey, Brigitte. So I didn't reach out to grab Brigitte. It's just Brigitte. Hey, Brigitte, how's it going? It's going, boom, done. Just like that. Boom, just kicked the feet up. It was one of the better falls of the whole trip. It was a good fall. And that was in Sepphoris. It was a great fall. So it does happen. It's just slippery. So you just want to pay attention to that kind of stuff. But we make certain, usually, that doesn't happen too often. We try to be around for that. After we go to Sepphoris, then we're going to drive around the Sea of Galilee, and we're going to stop at a place. Again, we're going to talk about this again. This is day 7. We stop at a place where it's nice. It's just a nice little place along the Jordan River, right where the Jordan River comes out of the Sea of Galilee, just maybe 100 yards, maybe 200 yards from where it exits the Sea of Galilee going south to the Dead Sea. And there they've built this baptismal site for tourists. But it's nice. Lockers, showers, everything you could possibly need. They do require that you wear they did last time, didn't they wear the white sheet again? The white robe? I think you have to wear a white robe. Yeah, it's like a toga, big old toga. But They also want you to wear, women, they want you to wear a swimsuit underneath that toga or something similar to a swimsuit, a shirt, something. They were having some of the folks that just were wearing togas only, and no, not a good idea. So guys will wear swimsuits, gals will wear swimsuits or something like that. We put them on, and we go in, we have a sweet worship time, and baptism is available there in the Jordan River. If you've already been baptized, you certainly don't have to be baptized. But, man, you're in Israel, it's the Jordan River. I would do it. I would just do it. So don't have to, but Klessa and Ron, do you guys get baptized? Would you recommend it? Would you do it again? Well, there you go. See, there it is right there. There it is right there. I don't need to go any further. Ron, I'm going to go further. Would you recommend it?
Oh, yeah. You can go have a swim afterwards.
It's nice. It's nice. Sandy Berger, would you recommend it? Every time. It's just, it's worth doing. There's no cost involved. It's just a matter of you want to do it, do it. One of the highlights of my baptismal experience, all the tours I led in Israel, I never did it. I was baptized in North Dakota in a church, in a little dunking tank with a contractor, Guy Culver. He was one of the elders, and he baptized me in a Sunday morning service. That's when I was baptized. And I thought, well, I'm baptized, I'm good. And then when we went, our first trip here with Washed by the Word, Connie and I were there, and we decided to just get baptized together. And that has been one of the highlights of all my Israel trips. So I would strongly encourage you, husband and wives, just do it together. Just get baptized if you can. It's great. Just do it. It's wonderful. It's wonderful. It's wonderful. It's wonderful. So do that baptism. And that is that entire day. We get back a little bit earlier to the hotel. One of the things we're working on is we want at least one day that we take a bus from Magdala after we're finished and take the bus over to a town on the southern part of the Sea of Galilee called Tiberias. And it'll be after dinner. And that is something I would strongly encourage you to go on. It's just fun. It's just fun. It's a Gentile town, a town Jesus probably never was in. But it's the biggest city on the Sea of Galilee, and they have it set up. It feels almost like a carnival without the rides or the cotton candy kind of. But it's just it's that kind of environment, but it's fun. It's a fun environment. You can buy some unbelievably inexpensive clothes there sometimes. Not guaranteed, but oftentimes they do have racks of clothing out, and it's the Middle Eastern fun stuff, the long flowing gowns and the Roger, you've been there. Talk real loud about that. Come up here for the people on screen. Come up here quick. Take your mask down and talk to those guys.
I love going to the market in Tiberias. It's one of my highlights. Everything there is mostly like one size, so it makes a great place to find gifts and stuff for people. I usually only pack like half of my suitcase, and then the rest of it is filled with mostly stuff from Tiberias for my friends. So, I mean, it's great, and it's not like super expensive, and it's a fun time. So, yeah.
That's a true statement. It's fun over there. So Tiberias is just a night off, and you get to go play in Tiberias. In the Galilee, there's not a lot of things to do in the evening apart from either Tiberias or staying in where we're staying. Sometimes we stay at a kibbutz. We're not going to talk much about the kibbutzim this time because they're closed because of COVID. So we can't stay at the kibbutzim. Otherwise, we would be at a kibbutz on the Sea of Galilee. The hotel we're staying at in Magdala is a brand new hotel. It looks like it's very nice. So it'll be good. The first hotel we stay at in Netanya, it'll be the same one we stayed at last night, that high rise. Oh, there's another applause. Okay. It's pretty good. It's a pretty nice hotel. And it's nice. It's nice. You will have a view of the Mediterranean Sea. You can go swim in the Mediterranean Sea. Again, it's a real tall one. The facilities are wonderful, and the food is fantastic. And what's nice about that hotel is we're off that whole day, so you can enjoy the facilities, the location, and it's a great place to recover and just enjoy. So we'll be staying there first off. Then we go to Magdala, another very nice hotel. And then, in honor of Sandy and Briget's request, we're going to stay again at the Dan Panorama in Jerusalem. So we'll be staying there again, hopefully the one to the left. That's what we're counting on. So the hotels this trip are going to be very adequate. And the ones in Greece will be okay. So we'll be okay. So it'll be fine. So that's day 7. Day 8, we're getting ready to head on out of the Galilee now. So we've been spending our 4 nights at Magdala. We get up this morning, and Lord willing, we're going to go to a Crusader castle. I've tried to get there the last 3 trips. We've never made it, so I put it at the beginning of the day this time, so we should make it. And this is just for me. It's just for me, but you guys can come along for the ride. It's pretty good. I used to go to it all the time, every trip. It's a Crusader castle around 1,000, between 10,000 or 10, around 1,000, 1,100 AD there. And they built this Crusader castle just to overlook the Jordan Valley. But oh my goodness, as the little boy comes out in you, it's a regular fortress castle type thing. It's got a dungeon in the bottom. I mean, it's got cool stuff. So we just go walking, check this out. And you just want to play army in there. It's just fun. It's just fun. But it's just a 1,000-year-old castle. So we're not going to be there long. And girls, sometimes the ladies say, I don't want to go in there. The guys are out. Man, we are there. See you, bye. And you're going to see what we were like as little boys, because all of a sudden you'll see one of us walking on the wall and someone over here. It's just fun. We'll be there 10 minutes. Absolutely nothing significant whatsoever in that castle. It's just fun. But we're going to go there. Then we go on down to Bet Shean. Now, Bet Shean is the best archaeological site in all of Israel. And if you ever go on other tours, you're going to end up in Turkey, eventually, probably. Ephesus is like phenomenal. Bet Shean is a level below. Corinth is right there. Philippi is right underneath that. So you're going to see some pretty amazing sights. But this Bet Shean, Roman, nice and loud, what do you think about Bet Shean when you think of that? That one with all the pillars up and that big old place out there. Okay, Sandy, you remember Bet Shean? Talk about it loudly.
It is like walking through.
Time out. Can you hear her? Carolyn, can you hear her? Lachey?
I can, yes.
Okay, go ahead.
It's like walking through, it's like being transported back in time and walking through a city, the skeleton of a city, and just, I mean, you feel like you've been transported back and you're living in that time, because the ruins are so beautiful. They have the mosaic floors that have been restored in some places. The walls have been restored in some places. You get to see a bathhouse and a shop, and you can just imagine yourself all decked out in some sort of beautiful clothing, walking arm in arm with someone you love, walking down the street, and being part of this ancient social activity. It's amazing. It's so beautiful. Yeah, that's what I think.
That was good. You got it, Roman? Remember, Roman?
Oh, yeah.
It's amazing. It's amazing. They have an amphitheater there that is almost complete. I mean, it's nuts. And that was when we had, I think, Connie, you went down there and sang this last time. We had Connie go just sit on the stage, and we are a long ways away. And she's talking and singing, and the way it's built, the sound just, you can see why they do these amphitheaters. Then they have the back wall on there, so it's just completely, it was amazing. It's amazing. You see it? That's where we're going next. And they have this bathhouse. And you get to see what the toilets were like. And they have a huge, they call it vomitorium. They've got this huge area. And it's just enlightening to the max. It's fantastic. But it's a big city. It's big. We see it all. It's cool. And that's when you go walking down on, and you walk through it, and we got our tour guide explaining what's going on as we go. And it is a phenomenal, phenomenal stop. The first 2 times we went, we would go there after our lunch break. And now as we're coming south out of the Galilee, the temperature changes drastically. We're in the Galilee, it's like perfect weather. It's 80 degrees. And you're going, well, this isn't bad. I can handle Israel all day long. It's green, there's water everywhere, and it's not how you picture Israel. It's more like a Garden of Eden type of thing. Now we get in the bus this time, we start heading down. When we get to Bet Shean, all of a sudden, kind of hot out here. And it's a different kind of heat. I don't know what the deal is. It's just hot. So what we're doing now is we're going there first. We're going to do that quick stop at the Crusader Castle and then book it on down to Bet Shean. We'll be there in the morning. By 11:30, 12, we should be done at Bet Shean. It's going to be getting warm. We're going to go to a place, again, no biblical significance at all. None. It's called Sakni. Sakni, one of my favorite places in all of Israel again. And Ron, do you remember Sakni? It's fun, isn't it? It's so fun. It is so fun. Sakni is where we're going to have lunch. So they'll provide lunch for us. It's not much, guys. This lunch is really a lunch. But who cares? You're at Sakni. It's what they have there. But it's going to be a little sandwich and some chips and a Coke. There's your lunch. Okay, well, it's better than nothing. We got a little bit of something to eat. But these grounds, it's green grass, big trees, the water, I don't know if that's natural colored water, if they put color in that water, I don't know. But it's just beautiful. Deep pools. Yes, Andy, go.
I was thinking you can stand underneath the waterfall. If you can allow the water to fall on top of you, it's not tall enough, it doesn't hurt because it's not very tall, but oh my gosh, it's an experience.
It's fantastic. So there's this big swimming area. For those of you that like to swim, it's deep. It's fairly long. It's probably 100 yards, I would guess. So you can swim and have fun with and dive off the rocks. And there's all kinds of people and family are picnicking. It's just fun. But then you walk across this little bridge, and here it's for the rest of us. And it's just fun. It's 4 foot deep maybe, 3 foot deep, something like that. That's what Sandy's talking about, the waterfalls all over the place, little fish on there. We had an underwater camera with us, and we were videoing underwater fish and having fun in there. And it's just a place to go, because it's starting to get hot now. Now it starts to get hot. We used to go there first and then go to Bet Shean. I go, why are we doing this? So we reversed it. And this makes much more sense. That's what we did last time, but much better. Once we're done with that, it's not very long. We're only there for about an hour. So it's not a long time. It's just our lunch break. Then after we stop for that picnic at Sakni and a swim, we start driving down the Jordan River Valley. This is an interesting drive because we're following the Jordan River. Those of you that have been in classes I've taught, remember I always draw that little circle on top with the line going down and then the Dead Sea on the bottom. We're following that line now from the Sea of Galilee almost all the way down to the Dead Sea. When we're driving down, to the left is modern-day Jordan. To the right is Israel. Prior to the 90s, there was hostilities between Jordan and Israel. So if you look off to the right, you will still see a lot of the different lookouts that Israel used to have in the mountains looking over Jordan. They're still there, but they're not armed hardly at all anymore because Jordan and Israel are really at a peaceful arrangement right now. And that was brokered by President Clinton did that. He brokered an agreement between Jordan and Israel, and that they took the Dead Sea and they just split it down the middle and said, look, half of the Dead Sea goes to Israel, half the Dead Sea goes to Jordan, as long as you guys get along. So they basically bought peace. Because the Dead Sea minerals is the number one source of income in it for Israel, more than tourism. That's number one, more than their diamond cutting. So they did that, and Jordan and Israel all of a sudden had peace, because Jordan all of a sudden is making money, Israel's making money, and they said, okay, we'll be nice. So it's lasted, 30-some years now. So we'll be driving down there. As we continue on to the south, there's nowhere to stop. You just drive. And it's about a 3-hour drive, I would guess, 2-hour, 2.5, 3-hour drive. As we continue going south, to our right will be Jericho. But to the left, we go through this now minefield that has been detonated. One time we couldn't go because they had found some more mines in there, remember? We turned us back. But we say, okay, no problem, we'll go back. But we'll go through that, and we go to the Jordan River. It's the traditional site of Beth Barah, which is where Israel crossed into the Promised Land. It's also considered the traditional site where John baptized Jesus, because Qumran is just a little bit further to the south of there. Traditional. But we go there, we get out of the bus, we go and look. The Jordan River in the summer is very narrow. Think Rio Grande. During the rainy seasons, it goes more like the Colorado River, maybe even the Mississippi and parts of it. But when we're there, it's tiny. But we'll see the Jordan River there. We're going to be seeing the Jordan River back and forth all the way from the Galilee all the way down to here. Once we get there, then we go across back to the west, and we go to, we drive by Jericho. Some days we go into Jericho on the outskirts, other days we just drive by it, and it completely depends on what our tour guide tells us the political situation is at the time. Simple as that. You're going to hear them talking all the time on the walkie-talkies. They know, and they just, if things are really mellow, we might stop in there. You might get your first look at a camel there. And if you want to ride a camel, that would be a great place to hop on a camel, take the camel around the parking lot for a minute. You can go further on down. Some people do. It's about a mile down the road, and you can get a camel there for sure. And a lot of people do that. They're willing to walk a mile for a camel. I don't get it, but they'll do that. Sorry. But at any rate, we'll do Jericho very briefly in Jericho, just briefly. And then from Jericho, we go through the wilderness. And one of the things we're going to be looking at as we get into these classes more, is we're going to be looking at the difference between the desert and the wilderness. And there's a big difference there. And wilderness to a Jew means something completely different to the desert. This is the wilderness. It's between Jericho and Jerusalem. We're going to talk a lot about that area because that area is very significant for us in the life of Jesus. That area is very significant all the way back to the Old Testament. Remember when they built the temple and they would celebrate Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement, and they would take 2 different goats. One would be offered, remember, at the burnt altar, and then the blood would be taken to the Holy of Holies. The other, the high priest would put his hand on that goat, and they would lead that goat out into the wilderness, the Bible says, with all the sins of Israel transferred to that goat, so to speak. It was symbolic transfer. One goat offered, his blood is shed, the Lamb of God shed for the sins of the world, and then, or for the sins of Israel, and then the scapegoat going out in the wilderness. They would take him out into the wilderness. They'd let him go. Once he was out there, then they would come up and say, or they would let him know, okay, he's out there, and they would blow a horn. And then the next day they would hear it, and they would blow. And they would hear it, and they would blow. And they would hear it, and they would blow. Until they got back to Jerusalem, and they knew this goat had gone all the way into the wilderness. As that took place year after year, the wilderness started to be seen as the place of demonic activities, where all the sins of the nation were there. The goat would eventually be find his demise at the hands of some wild animal out there, but they looked at it as a demonic presence in that wilderness. When Jesus was tempted, remember, the Spirit drove him out into the wilderness. This is the wilderness, the area of demonic presence, temptations, the place where the sins of Israel would be taken. That was the wilderness. We're going to drive through that wilderness. We're going to stop, take a look at it. You're going to see some different monasteries that are up in the hill, but you're also going to see a Jericho Road. And this is what is so significant, because the priests would work. Remember, David had these 26 different rotating groups that would work within the temple for a couple of weeks out of the year. The priests then, and Levites, but the priests specifically and the Levites, many of them would live down in Jericho because it was less expensive and it became the city for the Levites and the priests to live when they weren't working. There was a road from Jericho to Jerusalem, and it went through this wilderness area. We're going to stop where we can see it. You'll see the old Jericho Road and the significance of it. And once we get the significance of it, the parable Jesus gives just comes to light. Because you're going to see the road is against a rock face. So the road is only maybe 5 people wide, if that. There's no barrier. You look down the other side of the road and you're just going straight down. But you can't go the other way because it's a cliff rock face there. Am I describing that? You get a picture? So when Jesus says there was a man who was walking down to Jericho in his parable, he fell among thieves, that was a known problem with the Jericho Road, because where are you going to go? You're traveling by yourself and there's 5 guys right there. You go past a couple, they come up behind you, have a crevice somewhere, and there you are. It's like, well, hey, you got nowhere to go. He said he fell among some thieves, remember? They beat him up, robbed him, beat him up. He's laying on the road, Jericho Road. And then it says a Levite came by. And he walked on the other side of the road. That's basically stepping over him. It's a 5-foot road. And he's laying right there, so you step over him. A priest came by. And then Jesus in the parable said, then a Samaritan came by. Remember the Samaritans, they were the dregs from a Jewish perspective. And they're going, you know, when they hear that the first time, they're going, uh-oh, man, if a priest, oh, man, a Samaritan probably rolled him over the edge, you know. And it said he stops, he ministers to him, cleans his wounds up, anoints him, puts him on his animal, carries him on into Jericho and puts him in an inn and says, I got this. The Good Samaritan takes place on the Jericho Road. So we're going to see the Jericho Road, so when you see it now, it's like, whoa, this makes all the sense in the world now. And we get understanding of that parable. These are the kinds of little things that, it's not a tourist site, it's just something to see. But when you see it, it's like, whoa, got it. So we'll take a look at that. Then we're going to continue on, heading towards Jerusalem. As we're driving, we're going to point out Bedouins. Bedouins are going to be on the left side of the bus. Jericho Road's on the right side of the bus. And we're going to say, oh, here's some Bedouins. And you're going to see these tents. And they're just like they look like in the picture, and this old material covering this. And whenever I see that, I always think of the tabernacle in the wilderness, where on the outside it looked like not much, but you go inside like, whoa. And one of the things I've always wanted to do is get inside a Bedouin tent to see what's it like in there. One time I had an opportunity to do that. It was on our way down to the Sinai. No, to the southern part of Israel it was. And they had made arrangements for us to go down there. They told them we were coming. We had like 70 people in a group. They were waiting for us. And here's this tent. It's a big old tent, and it's just ragged stuff on the outside. Just like, I thought, this might be a mistake. I'm not sure I want to put my people in that. That's kind of like, yee. And David kept saying, no, it's good. It's just trust me, it's good. We opened up the tent. Guys, lush carpeting, lush. Inside it's beautiful. Linen drapes, this sheer linen, bright colored stuff hanging down from everything. And it was like, this is really nice. No furniture. You sit on pillows and you lay up against these kind of backrest pillow things. So we all took our shoes off. I'm thinking, I'm going to take my shoes off for sure because this place is nice. And went inside and they served us. What do you suppose they served us? Coffee. Of course they did. They served us coffee. The Bedouin coffee. You all know the story, the Bedouin coffee, but for those of you who don't, this is true now. The Bedouins have a tradition they have kept for years and years and years and years. And that is, the Bedouins live off the land. And when you look out there, just stop and realize they got to live off that land. And man, that's a tough order right there. That's a tough order. They'll have their goats. That's about all that's out there. There's not much grass. There's not much, it's just a lot of rock. But at any rate, one of the things that they do in the Bedouin society is the wife has responsibilities and so does the husband. The wife's responsibility is to take down the tent when they move and set the tent back up. And the wife's responsibility is to prepare the food and cook the food, store the food, wash the food, and clean up after the meals. The wife's responsibility is to make sure that everyone's dressed appropriately and cleanliness. They take care of all that. They raise the children. They take care of the goats out there to make sure the goats are well fed and they're good. They take care of educating the children. So the women are responsible for that. The head of the household, the dad, the main dude, he's got the most important responsibility, the whole gamut. In fact, he has one major responsibility. The wife takes care of all these mundane things. The husband's main responsibility, make the coffee. But he makes some really good coffee. It's some good coffee, but that is true. That's their main responsibility, make that coffee. And we've talked about it many, many times. We know that is a biblical principle. And why is that a biblical principle? Because of one book in the Bible tells us it is. Hebrews. That's right, Hebrews. Hebrews all the coffee. But it's a true, that's true. He's responsible for the coffee. Hospitality and coffee, that's what he does, which I think is kind of crazy, but that's what it is. So, we're going to talk about the Bedouins. It's going to look like shacks, and I'm sure some of them are. The one we saw wasn't. It was nice, really nice in there. I mean, I was shocked. But we're going to see these tents. Back and forth, you'll see these tents, the Bedouin tents. And you're going to ask, well, do they live there? Yep. All year round? Yep. Where do they get their income? They don't have electricity. They don't have rent. Basically food, it seems like they're pretty much self-existent. And then with their goats. But that's what it is, the Bedouins. Interesting lifestyle. Once we leave through this wilderness of Judea, we're going to come on up into Jerusalem. And that is one of the highlights of the entire trip, as we come up into Jerusalem. And you're going to be able to see, well, you'll see it for the first time. Can't describe it. It's something you've got to see with your own eyes. But it's different than any other city I've been in. Now, Roman, you've traveled as much as anybody I know of. Any city compared to that, as far as the color and the majesty of it? It's crazy. Yeah, there are people crying, most definitely. There are definitely tears on the bus, no doubt about it. No doubt about it. Yeah, it's a phenomenal way to end this day. It's just phenomenal. And then here we are in Jerusalem. We're going to be in Jerusalem for 5 nights. And there's so much to see in Jerusalem. And you're going to see why Jesus spent his time in the Galilee. Because Jerusalem is going to be very loud, very busy, a lot of activity. The Galilee is full of opportunities for quiet times, going for a walk along the Sea of Galilee, walking up in Tel Dan, and it's just like peaceful and amazing cabin country. It's amazing. And then we hit Jerusalem, and it's like, I had my quiet time in the bathroom today. It was the only quiet place in the place I had. Turned the shower on, fan on, okay, we're good to go. But it's activity. It's fun. A lot of activity. And what we're going to see is going to be really mind-boggling. And it's one amazing day after the next once we're in Jerusalem. So that's it for today. It was about 50 minutes, I believe, for those of you on out of state there. And hey, 50 minutes, that's good. That's what we'll do. Thank you for joining us, Carolyn and Lachey and Dave and Nadine. Thank you for jumping on here. And no more class now until the first Sunday next year, which means our next class, I'm going to say, we're going to Israel this year, guys. So we're like to February, March, April, May. We're 5.5 months out now. Our next meeting will be 5.5 months out. So it's coming on in. It's getting here. Again, our numbers are looking, it's getting real close. Is this our daughter?
Yeah.
It sounds like you. Okay.
I'm so excited. I cannot wait to see all these wonderful places. That's all I had to say.
Yay, I'm so excited. I can hardly wait to see you too, girl, next month. Yep. But at any rate, yay. I agree with you, Lachey. It's going to be nothing but great. It's going to be fun.
I told her today I'm going to be trying to keep up with everybody.
We'll wait for you a little bit. We'll wait for you a little bit. Now, you'll be fine. Just keep walking, Carolyn. Keep walking now. Are you saying something, Nadine? Nadine?
I tried.
Yeah, say it again. I'm sorry. Say it again.
It's okay, I'll ask it later.
No, please, go ahead, girl.
Thank you guys.
Okay.
I can't even remember what I said.
Okay. Get some rest, girl. You're a mess. Get some rest. Man, that voice, she's hurting out there. Okay. Bless you guys. We'll see you the first Sunday in January.
Okay, we look forward to it.
Okay, remember by January 1st, we've got to have 3,000 in per person if you're doing Greece. 2,000 if you're doing Israel only. All right, God bless you guys. See you, bye.